Today I'm going to show you how I make our super simple oat and really ripe banana cookies. So just banana oat cookies, add in whatever flavorings you want. These are so healthy, so easy to throw together. They freeze wonderfully, really inexpensive. So let's get started. This is absolutely everything you need. I use a giant mixing bowl as long as it's not in the dishwasher at the time, so that the oats don't spill everywhere. I find that works better than a smaller one. We use 8 really ripe bananas. Often I will use ones I've previously frozen at the peak of their ripeness. And then I'll just thaw them before I get started. Either works just fine. And I'm looking for like banana bread type bananas. So really, really spotted, a little past probably where you'd want to eat them. Rolled oats I use. You can use quick oats, that works as well. A couple cookie sheets and on some parchment paper so the cookies don't stick. We have a stick blender, immersion blender I find works best. You could also probably throw this into a food processor, but this is easier to me. And then I use a giant spoon to stir, again, because it's easier than a smaller one. A measuring cup, and I'm gonna throw some cinnamon and vanilla into this batch. You can add in other mix-ins and flavorings, but the basic recipe, all you need is really ripe bananas and rolled oats. I have preheated my oven to 375. So let's get started throwing this together. All right, so the very first thing I'm gonna do is, again, either thaw my frozen bananas in the microwave or just quickly peel each of these. So I just peel all 8 bananas. This is a super forgiving recipe. I have a ton of variations. I often bake these into bars. Like I said earlier, they freeze wonderfully, and you can sort of over time tweak it to your individual taste. Even the amount of oats you use versus bananas is really forgiving. So it's really not, it's not like typical, oopsies, typical baking where like, you know, every ounce matters significantly. This really doesn't. These are really nice and ripe. Remember that all the sweetness in this recipe is obviously coming just from these ripe bananas. So you really do want to make sure they're at the peak of their ripeness. These are actually exceptionally small bananas compared to what I usually use. So I'm going to throw in 1 or 2 extras here just because I want to make sure the batch is nice and big because my kids go through them so quickly. You certainly don't need to. I'm just doing this so that I can make a bigger batch. Okay, so 8 ripe bananas generally. And then I'm gonna use a lot of vanilla. This adds so much beautiful flavor. So I'm probably gonna add a good 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Vanilla powder works as well. And I'm gonna throw in a bit of cinnamon. This is pretty strong stuff. This is the stuff we get at Costco. Actually, so much of this, I think every ingredient here comes from Costco. The rolled oats are really, really cheap there as well. All right, so I have all this except for the oats. Everything else is in here. I'm gonna now take my stick blender, my immersion blender, and I'm just gonna give this a quick blend, and I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. And here's the final completely blended banana, cinnamon, and vanilla concoction, and I'm going to start throwing in some rolled oats. All right, so the general ratio I try to stick to that works again well for us, but there are lots of different variations of this recipe, is about 8 medium-sized really ripe bananas and 4 cups oats. That's about right, and that's where I start, and then I add more or fewer oats depending on what the final texture looks like. These are going to be drop cookies, or sometimes I bake them into bars, but these today I'm going to make the drop cookies. So obviously like not super, super runny. If you have a higher oat ratio, they can get a little bit dry, still not the end of the world. It's very, I don't think I've actually ever completely messed these cookies up. It's almost impossible. So I'm gonna finish up this bag that we have, really forgiving. So 1, we'll call this not quite 2. Throw that bag out. We go through rolled oats very quickly. 3. I'm a busy homeschooling mom of 2, 4, and I'll give a little more. So we tend to do a variation of these kind of cookies, or sometimes, like I said, I turn them into bars. I have probably 10, 12 different varieties of these. different fruits, different, I even do them with sweet potatoes as the binder instead of bananas. So this tends to be our go-to breakfast. I also sometimes pack them for my kids for snacks if we're gonna be out and about all day or we're traveling. Okay, so I think, because I threw in those extra 2 bananas to make an extra big batch for us, I might need just a little bit more oats. So this could work. It might be a little wetter, which actually is good. They taste really nice and chewy and sweet, but I might throw in just a teeny bit more oats, probably just like literally half a cup or so, just a bit. I also often, by using this big bowl, I will make a double batch, and especially if I'm baking them into bars, parchment, I just line a cake pan with parchment paper and just flatten this into bars. It's a little faster because I don't have to scoop, but it does take longer to bake. So I'll make a double batch just to save time. It takes about the same amount of time to throw it together, but it gives me twice as many days worth of breakfast. So there we go. All right. So I'll just show you the final consistency. All right, so here's the consistency I have. It does thicken up a little over time as well, but this is looking pretty good. So this will give me some pretty big cookies. Probably 32 is what I'm gonna aim for. So let's get started scooping. Okay, so I've lined my cookie trays with parchment paper. We buy this at Costco. It's a really good price for a huge roll, and it's absolutely critical if you wanna do oil-free baking, which we do. So I just scoop them about like that. These are gonna be, again, pretty big cookies because I made a big batch. They don't rise or spread, right? Because I didn't add any baking soda or powder or anything. So you don't need to space them too far apart. Just so they're not touching is fine. And so like I said, I'll put 16 on each tray. I'll show you that right before I pop them in the oven. So apparently I scooped a little big thinking I had a much bigger batch than I did. So I have, rather than redistribute, I don't really care. As long as they're similar sized, they bake just fine. So there's gonna be 16 on this tray and just 7 over here, which is totally fine. I'll probably just put closer to 3 in a little Ziploc bag for my kids for each morning. And that's, like I said, totally forgiving. The only thing to kind of aim for is that they're pretty close to the same size, so they bake evenly. I'm gonna start with about 16, 17 minutes at 375 in the oven, and then see where they're at. I'm looking for a golden brown kind of finish. Right, so these are done and looking quite nice. I actually ended up baking for about 25 minutes. So looking really nice. They peel off super easily once they're done. They literally just came out, so they're really hot. And they still already peel off really nicely, but if you wait longer, it'll be even better. So slightly golden brown. I do them more or less. This is the least I'd ever do them probably. And they just stay really nice and soft. So I'm gonna just let them cool a little bit. And then I'm sure my kids will be making their way down here to try a little taste test. As a side note, whatever we don't eat, you know, fresh right away, I put usually 4 cookies. Again, I kind of made large ones, so I might do 3. 4 cookies in a bag, one of these bags. Then I put 8 of those bags in here. And I either freeze them or put them in the fridge. And that is just an easy way of me being able to throw, I literally throw this along with some fruit and some veggies on the table for them every homeschool morning. And that is their breakfast / veggie for the day. And then they can help themselves to stuff from our fridge the rest of the day. So there we go. We have a willing taste tester. Is this tortuous, Ari, or do you kind of enjoy these cookies?
I wish you would say something more close to the truth.
Do you really enjoy them?
Yes.
Yes. These are some of your favorites, especially when they're fresh, right? Okay, what do you think? Let's see. They're still warm. Yeah,
very good.
Very good. You like the vanilla? What are some of your other favorite variations of this? Or is this your favorite?
I think this is my favorite.
Is it? Yeah, the basic, which is the one I've made the longest. Just vanilla, cinnamon, and bananas, right? Sometimes I do even throw chickpea flour in instead of some of the oats. That makes it a little cakier and even denser and
Did you this
filling.
time?
I did not. These are just the basic oat ones, you know? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. leave a comment below if you also make these cookies and if you have some variations that your kids enjoy.